What's up, ladies and gents? This is KSigKid coming at you with another Destiny video. Today we're taking a look at Wrath of the Machine. Yes, 390 Wrath Challenge Mode comes out tomorrow, so like we've done the past couple of weeks, what I want to do is walk through the steps of the raid and give you my personal weapon recommendations. So you might have some different things that you like to use. I absolutely want to hear about that in the comment section below, because sometimes that gives me just a really great idea. For starters, we're doing Vosik, and we're going to group up Vosik for the outside and the inside, and for me, the number one recommendation is the Outbreak Prime. And I'll get into that in just a little bit, but Outbreak Prime is my heaviest recommendation. For a special weapon, we've got a sniper rifle with 1000-yard stare impact class or better, so I've got the Ex Machina. And then for my heavy, it's a Dreadfang. It's a Void legendary sword, so you could use this, or you could go and buy a legendary sword from Lord Shaxx. Now, if I'm doing this part of the raid on my Warlock, I really like Stormcaller. Not only does your super absolutely melt the captain, but with a Storm Grenade and Arc Web, you can destroy anything in the middle areas. So like I said, we're grouping up this outside and inside area, and Outbreak Prime is key for me. Yes, you could use the Black Spindle. Yes, you could use the Sleeper Simulant and deal out massive damage to Vosik, but the problem is, you need to make sure you're hitting your headshots and critical hits. If you've got the Outbreak Prime, yes, obviously you want to hit critical hits and headshots, but it's more forgiving. It's more forgiving, and the Nanite plus bonus damage to Fallen makes this absolutely ridiculous on him. You deal out so much damage, and how often are you running around in need of primary ammo? You pretty much have primary ammo around all the time. It works out so well. Whereas we know whenever we're fighting Vosik that his head just bobs and weaves and is all over the place. If you're shooting your Sleeper Simulant, not only do you have to worry about the charge time, but then you have to worry about reload eventually. And if his head's going all over the place and you're missing some of your critical hit shots and hitting the body, even though it looks like you're hitting the head, you're going to be dealing out less damage. Same with the Black Spindle, though it's definitely more forgiving, where if you happen to miss a shot, your only real penalty is having to reload, and that can be mitigated a bit by having some sniper rifle reload perks on. But the Outbreak Prime just works so well throughout the entire battle. It handles all of the fallen enemies. The only time you run into a little bit of a problem, and it happens every now and then, not all the time, is if you're in the middle and there happens to be nanites out and the captains hit it. Sometimes the captains just jump off the edge, and that stinks. That stinks. Now, as far as heavy weapons, if you really don't want to use a sword, you could use a machine gun. People do use the if materia. I really like the sword though. The sword works really well. You can get in close, you can start swinging at him and staggering him. It just works really well, so I would pick a sword. And of course, the sniper rifle is mainly to deal with monitors. The last thing you want is for your raid to wipe because you didn't kill the monitors. It's not often that we actually get a recommendation for dealing with a boss as being a primary weapon, but Outbreak Prime is so good. Now, whenever we move over to the siege engine, I like to put on my Genesis chain. You really don't need it. It really doesn't matter which primary you use. You could use a really good hand cannon or a really nice scout rifle. I just like auto rifles, and any chance I get to put one on, I put it on, and it works just fine here. The main thing you really want is a sniper rifle for the beginning, and then I like to have my Dark Drinker on. What happens is, as we're going through the battle, I like to deal with all the mines that are on the ground, or at least as many as I can initially. Then whenever the captains come out, if you're on your Stormcaller, pop your super and just go to town, or if you don't have a super or you're not on a Stormcaller, it's all about just pulling out your exotic sword and spinning away at the captains. Again, remember, pretty much every shield you're going to find in this raid is going to be void, and just your exotic sword, it's going to deal out a ton of damage and just help you put in big time work. You really don't want to waste your time using your primary weapon at all. I guess you could have on some type of full auto shotgun, but then again, you have to reload with your shotgun, whereas with your void sword, you don't have to worry about that at all. Also, let's face it, in the beginning, you want to have on a sniper rifle anyway. How else are you going to blow off the sides of the siege engine? Also, right here at the end, wherever we're fighting the fallen walker, the spider tank that drops down, having a sniper rifle, that's going to be pretty key. Obviously, I'm not really going to be dealing out any damage if I use my auto rifle, so snipe all the way. And you really couldn't do anything with this if you happen to have on a shotgun. So sniper rifle for sure in my special slot. Primary, it's pretty versatile, whatever you feel comfortable with. But for my heavy, I really do like to have on my Dark Drinker. And pretty much, I've got my Dark Drinker on for the rest of the battle. Pretty much after Vosek, I've got a Dark Drinker on. Moving on to Axis Phase 1, you can pretty much swap over to your favorite scout rifle if you want, and then I still like to keep on my sniper rifle, and then I've got my Dark Drinker. Before, whenever I was first doing this battle, I was actually rocking out a shotgun in my special slot, but then the hard mode came out, and we have these turrets up here, and I just like to take them down with my sniper rifle. I feel that that just works the best, stay far away, and then if anything gets in close, we've got our sword on. You're dealing with captains again, so swords, they're going to work out pretty well. If you don't want to have on your Dark Drinker, if you feel more comfortable with the Raise Lighter, by all means you can do that because you're not worrying about damage to the boss. For right now, if you really want to take care of your captains with the Raise Lighter, that is certainly fine. But I'd probably just rock out the Dark Drinker anyway. I mean, you're going to want to have a Dark Drinker for the final battle as it is, so you might as well get used to spinning and killing your captains. I mean, practice makes perfect, right? So for this battle, it's really not that specific. The main thing I like to have is 1, a sword, and 2, a sniper rifle for dealing with the turrets. The primary weapon doesn't matter all that much. I'm going to pick a specific primary weapon though for Axis Phase 2 though. That's going to be a little bit different. So for Axis Phase 2, first off, I swap over to my Sunsinger here. I like to put on the Starfire Protocol and then 2 fusion grenades with burns. For my primary weapon, it's a hand cannon, and I'm just using the Raid hand cannon, Fever and Remedy, but this is not necessary. We'll talk about a few different primary options in just a moment. So we've got our hand cannon on, then for our special slot, we've got still our sniper rifle. Sniper rifle stays the entire match, and then for me, it's Dark Drinker. You could also have these rocket launchers. We'll talk about those in a moment as well. Let's start off on the primary weapon. So I'm picking a hand cannon, and basically, if you pick the Fatebringer impact class of hand cannon or better, so even going up to the First Curse or Ill Will, those hand cannon shots will one-shot the shanks. Now here's the problem. When the shanks are really far away, you're going to have range fall off, which means damage fall off, which means that sometimes you will not do that. So what people have kind of swapped over to is if they've got the highest impact class of scout rifle with explosive rounds, then you too can also one-shot the shanks. Now that is not every high impact class of scout rifle. For instance, the Chaos Dogma, it's not going to one-shot the shanks, but something like the Burning Eye from Trials of Osiris with explosive rounds and accurized ballistics, one-shotting shanks. Something like the Keystone from Dead Orbit with explosive rounds, it'll one-shot the shanks. I believe Hand of Judgment and Colavance's Duty also does it as well. So just try to keep that in mind. You can't do it with every scout rifle, but certain specific ones you can, and I believe if you've already got those, if you've already got your explosive round scout rifle, like your Keystone that was sold, or your Burning Eye, chances are you use that over a hand cannon, because it's just better for range. Now as far as dealing out damage, like I said before, we use the Dark Drinker here. And the reason why I like the Dark Drinker over the rockets, I know the rockets, the cluster bomb rocket launchers were all the fad a few weeks ago, but the reason why I like the Dark Drinker is it works really well throughout the battle. You can kill your captains and you can deal out really big damage to the boss without really worrying about too much. You've got a ton of ammo, whereas if you've got your rocket launcher on, sometimes you are subject to some of the RNG whenever you're firing off your cluster bombs, them hitting, and sometimes just struggling for max ammo because it's definitely harder to come by max ammo on that as opposed to the sword. So that's my recommendation, a sword, though if you don't have the Dark Drinker, by all means, feel free to use those rockets, or your Sleeper, or your Black Spindle. Those things are all viable, but my number one recommendation is, and constantly will be, unless it's nerfed, the Dark Drinker. I have a lot of fun with it. Anyway, those are my recommendations. I'd love to know some of your specifics, especially if they're different from mine. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and smack that like button and subscribe to the channel. Check out these awesome videos. Good luck with your raids, your drops, your Wrath of the Machine, and I'll see you around in Destiny. #explosive, dark drinking, scout, sniper.